If you guys have questions, just like unmute yourself and ask. We're gonna cover a lot of information, but first we're gonna go over some introductions. I'm Chris Vernier, and I love it for you to share your context, like where you're at, and then also if this is your first gathering or not. Each gathering is different. If you've been to every gathering since '88 in San Antonio, since the ELCA was formed, or if this is your very first gathering, each gathering cycle, there's new things. And so coming to these meetings is important to get some information. I want to grab my binder because there's information I need to be reminded of too. I'm Chris Vernier, and I work as the Director of Communications, Events, and Youth Ministry for our Synod. And I'm the Synod champion for the ELCA Youth Gathering. So in previous cycles, there's been a Synod Gathering Coordinator and a Synod Day Director. They've merged those two positions into a champion. And I think they call us the champion so they can play that song by Queen, "We Are the Champions," to kind of pump us up because they've given us more work to do. And so I love the gathering. I went to the gathering when I was in high school. It was in New Orleans, and I love New Orleans. And I remember experiencing walking into the dome with all those people and worshiping, and it just blew my mind. And I went to a kind of not a small church, but it still blew my mind that there were that many people worshiping and experiencing and God's love and all of that. It was just amazing. And it was fun to spend like 2 weeks with my friends on the way down and back as well. So yeah. And trying new things in New Orleans. So I'm gonna call on someone, and then whoever they can call on the next person. I'm gonna call on Tracy. I can't hear you. No. Have you done the little test thing at the bottom? Are you on a computer or like an iPad, or do the little test your speaker thingy bobber? Yes. While Tracy is figuring that out, that's all right. Technical difficulties, it's 2023, but how many times do I forget to unmute myself before I start talking on Zoom, right? So yeah. Oh, this is your first gathering. How exciting. Awesome. And Ken, are you available to share?
I am. I'm Ken DeCellier. I'm the Director of Faith Formation at Bethlehem Lutheran in Fergus Falls. Just currently traveling back to Fergus Falls, not driving. My brother-in-law is driving, and my wife's in the back seat with the baby. We were at a funeral today, so just the time I could make it work now. Anyways, I've been to 3 gatherings, 2 as a high school student, both in New Orleans in 2009 and 2012, and then in Houston in 2018 as a leader for just my group, but not the overall group leader. So this will be my first year being the overall group leader for my group, and if anybody takes along with us, which we'll see what happens. One of the churches in Fergus Falls, which there's like a bazillion of them, it seems like. No, I'm kidding. There's 5. Um, one of them has already just said we're not going. So we'll see what happens, but we're just trying to see what we can get for a group. And I'm just excited because last time as a group leader, just seeing my kids change through the week is really fun. So anyways, all right, Tammy, go ahead.
Thanks, Ken. So I'm Tammy. I actually am the retreat coordinator at Luther Crest Bible Camp. And Maddie asked me to jump on because I'm going to be in charge of reserving seats on a bus that we will be sending from Luther Crest down to New Orleans. And we'll do 2 days on the way in, 2 days on the way back. And so I'm just anxious to hear how it all goes. I've been to one gathering, that was it, and that was in Houston. My husband was actually the city coordinator out here in New England. And so I kind of saw a little bit more behind the scenes. And then I was technically supposed to be, as a youth director at the time, I was supposed to be the Synod gathering coordinator for Minneapolis. And we saw how that happened. And in the midst of that, I've switched positions from youth director to the retreat coordinator at Luther Crest. So that's kind of why I'm here. Kind of pick Chris's brain.
Yes. Yeah, and so I'm going to share my screen. And Tammy, Tracy, if you have any questions, if your microphone still doesn't work, please just type away in the chat and I'll monitor that as much as possible. So here we go. The gathering. There is a lot of information today and a lot of new stuff with this gathering. I'm gonna put my chat over there so I can keep it open. So we already did introductions. Here is, we're gonna watch the promo video for that and chat to me if the sound isn't good.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Here I go. It's fine, my dog, my day up in the sun is just a ride.
We have someone new joining us. Connecting to the audio. Welcome.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Here I go.
That happened earlier today. I tried to play the first one again. Welcome, Kale. If that's your name, I'm glad you're here. So I am my background is in Christian education, and having goals and objectives is very important to me. The mission statement of the ELCA youth gathering is faith formation for teens. And the goals, these are the goals of the youth gathering. that the youth are affirmed and challenged in their faith, that they are experience new perspectives, that they ponder their vocation, that they bond with their congregation, and they learn more about the ELCA and their partners. Now, if you've been to a gathering before, you might have experienced these things, but this is the first time it's been explicitly written out, that they are wanting and naming these things, so that you can bring these to your congregations and say the why, right? In today's world, there's a lot of things going on, a lot of reasons, a lot of good things filling everyone's time. And so these are the why of the ELCA Youth Gathering. The theme is created to be. The theme main passage is from Psalm 139. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works that I know very well. So this slide deck, to be like the cool kids, they're not PowerPoints, they're slide decks. So, I added some things to this, and this video is a little bit longer, but it is a really good, it's called the Theme Deep Dive into the theme and a little bit more of New Orleans and the why. And the why is always really important to me. So here's our next video.
I praise you,
I praise you. I will praise you, for I'm fearfully.
for I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
For I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
We're excited to be centered around the theme of Created to Be for the 2024 ELCA Youth Gathering, Multicultural Youth Leadership Event, or MILE, the table, and the brand new Young Adult Gathering, all in New Orleans.
Since the last time the ELCA has come together for a gathering, our young people have experienced major life events.
Still today, we are experiencing an ongoing public health crisis mixed with an economic crisis and a political crisis. However, we can rest assured that we are created to be in relationship with one another.
In our time together in New Orleans, we're going to explore the daily themes of created to be brave, to show up with an open mind and heart, and be willing to be challenged.
Created to be authentic, to bring our whole selves and to know that we are loved by our Creator.
Created to be free, to be transformed by the gospel.
Created to be disruptive, to work for justice for all of our siblings.
And created to be disciples, to be sent out into the world, to love our neighbors like we are loved by God.
The theme Created to Be encompasses many of the beautiful and vibrant pieces of New Orleans.
As our host city, New Orleans has always been its true authentic self. Created to be highlights the arts, the music, and the soul of the city.
Throughout the city, you'll be able to hear musicians playing their hearts out in inspiring jazz, blues, rock, and hip hop. From the French Quarter to uptown to downtown, you'll find delicious food created by incredible chefs ready for your taste. New Orleans was built to host and be a city for all of God's children to come together.
Throughout the week at the gathering, we'll dive deeper into topics that are upfront and present in the lives of our young people today. From mental health to anti-racism conversations, we hope to foster relationships and be sanctuary for one another.
We know that we are simultaneously both saint and sinner and need forgiveness when we aren't or can't be brave, authentic, free, disruptive disciples. To incorporate our pre-event Smile and the Table, a gathering for youth living with a wide range of disabilities, more fully in the overall gathering experience, we are excited to share the theme throughout all of these ministries. We are equally excited for the director of Mile and the Table to share their dreams of our time together in New Orleans.
When the Spirit empowers, things begin to happen. The soul is very much a part of the body, and the Spirit awakens our soul and gives us life. As the body of Christ, our soul is not fully complete unless the rest of the body is also in it. At the 2024 Multicultural Youth Leadership Event, we will explore how we are created to be transformed. Transformation happens through a Spirit-inspired community. The very nature of God is community, where two or more are gathered. Our soul is the breath that gives life, and every part of us is important to the community. I am because we are. No matter who you are or where you come from, we can empower one another without judgment, knowing that we are all created to be transformed. Our ethnic cultures are rich in community and kinship. The abundance of the community we strive to model at Mile is the foundation of our ethnic communities. We inspire to bring liberating relationships characterized by equality, difference, mutuality, communion, and oneness. A community that will be inclusive and accountable to all.
In the beginning, God created and called it good. But God never stopped creating. And what God makes is still good. In 2024, the table will gather around the theme, created to be fully you. Now I know what you're thinking. We spelled holy wrong. And well, yes, we did. Because we know that to say that God creates us just as we are raises a few more questions for people who live with a wide variety of disabilities. Because sometimes it means limits that others don't have, or complicated medical issues, or perceptions that others place on us that don't seem loving or just. At the table, we know that everyone is created in the love of God and called to live wholly as they are, fully into their story, with incredible gifts and questions, joys, sorrows, struggles, and doubts, living fully into their story that's being co-written with God. Holy you, claimed and made holy in the grace of Jesus, created to be holy you.
Friends, if you or your congregation has never been to a gathering before, let 2024 be the year you join us. The Spirit is up to something good when our young people come together. If the gathering is already a part of your congregation's culture, we look forward to welcoming you to New Orleans and continuing this rich tradition with you. Peace.
I praise you.
So welcome, Lexi. I'm glad you're here. I'm recording this so you can see the beginning of this meeting early at a later time. Each gathering cycle, the people who work on the theme, the overall theme, pick a book as kind of their guide. And this year, since I blurred my background because my office is so messy, it's The Innovative Church by Scott Cormode, Cormode. I can put that in the chat. I haven't read it yet, but it's about how leaders and their congregations can adapt in an ever-changing world. And so the people who put together the overall theme, there were youth, young adults, and adults. They spent time reflecting on the questions that were raised around that, and they came together on this theme. So I will put this in the chat right now. We have and Lexi and Kale, if you have questions, just unmute yourself and ask. Because if you have a question, probably someone else has the same question as well. And I'm Chris if I haven't met you before. I'm glad you're here. So I put the book in the chat. I look forward to finding the time to read. I'm very behind in my to be read file. But I will be working on it. We have 5 daily themes. The first day will be brave, and that is the first day of the gathering. The 3 main program days, authentic, free, and disruptive. And the last day, which is for the closing worship, is disciples. There are 2 pre-events, and in our synod, we do not have, we have not had great attendance. In the last 4 cycles, we have not had anyone attend Mile or the table. In the past, the table was called Dale, definitely able. And so I want to share a little bit about these 2 things. So here is Kelly. We heard from her earlier, but she expands on what she has already said.
What would it look like if we lean in, listen, and explore our story, embracing exactly who God created us to be and celebrating our fully authentic selves? We invite you to join us for the 2024 Multicultural Youth Leadership Event, a spirit-inspired celebration of community where you are invited to be with other storytellers who seek to inspire, empower, and listen to each other's stories. Mile is the largest gathering of people of color in the ELCA, and we invite you to experience a spirit-led event in New Orleans. Will you join us?
So with Mile, I would, I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment so the next video doesn't accidentally start playing. Mile is an amazing event. It is for 3 days before the gathering. At the meeting we had at 1 o'clock, one of the pastors raised up that they have 2 Ojibwe youth that are interested in going to Mile. And with Mile, if you have a group, it is for youth of color or people who primary language is something other than English. And it's to nurture community. I'm just going to read it from the thing because it's so important. I don't want to lead anyone down the wrong path. Nurture community and inspire healing with all our participants, leaders, and volunteers. We see an ELCA that is full of ethnic cultures and that are rich in community and family bonds. We want to characterize these relationships by equity, difference, mutuality, and communion and oneness. It's a time to celebrate our cultures together and breathe the spirit into our own healing. The first 1,000 people who register for Mile get the registration for Mile for free. And so that's a new exciting thing this year. It was a grant that was written. And so I would love for there to be some people from our synod that attend. Your entire group can attend if at least half of your group are people of color or whose primary language is other than English. Or you can have like a separate group go. I know transportation might be a little difficult to figure out. And so I would be willing to help organize. I can't lead the trip. Bishop Bill has told me that I can't lead or totally organize a trip for our synod to the ELCA youth gathering. But I can kind of help work out some of the things and organize people together to make sure that people can get to Mile or the table. And so if you have some young people that would be interested in attending Mile, please reach out to me. I'm going to stick my email now in the chat. And so please email me because I would love for people to go to Mile. Now table. So in Houston, I was a property manager for Synod Day, which meant I went to Houston early and I got things set up. And so I was there, and the hotel I stayed at was the hotel for the table. And so I got to experience some of the table, and it was just so amazing and neat. So here's a little bit about the table.
Welcome to the table. There's a spot that belongs to you. The table is a unique gathering, intentional about welcoming youth who live with a wide range of physical, cognitive, and emotional disabilities, that they might grow as wise, faithful, and courageous witnesses. Our hope is that you would experience how you were created in the image of God to be wholly you. There's a spot that belongs to you at the table where Jesus is our host.
So much like Mile, the first 200 people who register for the table get their registrations for free. And while I was in a meeting for the champions, they explained further what a participant for the table could be. And it helped me understand better, and I wanted to share it with you. They used the terms someone who was chronically ill, someone with physical disabilities, or someone who's neurodivergent. And so I hadn't heard those descriptions before of people to participate in the table, and so that was helpful for me. And so yeah. For the age range of people for the table, it is primarily for those who are 14 to 18 and engaged in a high school youth group or high school or vocational education equivalent. And each participant is expected to have an adult companion with them. So a 1-to-1 ratio for that. Now, this is the first year that the ELCA is going to have a young adult gathering. Whoa. So the young adults have always wanted to have a gathering. Many young people who have been to a gathering want to go back again, and they're too old. And sometimes they're too young to be an adult leader, and sometimes they wouldn't be a good adult leader. And so this time, especially because the last cycle missed a good group of young people, there will be a young adult gathering happening at the same time as the ELCA youth gathering. So some things about the young adult gathering. They will register themselves. They won't go like they don't need an adult leader because they're all adults. The age range is 18 to 35. They can travel with you because the time would be the same. It's the same dates. But they will be in their own hotel. And they'll have their own programming. And they need to register on their own individually because there will be information for them and they'll each get a background check. They will be invited to go to the mass gathering each day in the dome. They don't have to. And ages 18 to 35 is pretty wide, right? And so in the champions and in the gathering information, a lot of the programming is going to be based and aimed towards ages 18 to 25, but it is open to 18 to 35. There will be childcare available because, 18 to 35-year-olds, some have kids. It's, some are freshmen in college and some are, doctors. It's quite a range. And so there'll be small groups, cohorts. It's exciting. Children will not be allowed to be brought to the mass gathering, but they're still figuring things out, that they have their own planning team and they'll have their own schedule. But if you have young adults from your church that want to go, and your church wants to help support them, that's great, but they need to register themselves. So, any questions on any of the things that aren't the actual ELCA gathering, mile, the table, or the young adult gathering?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right, perfect. Okay, the ELCA youth gathering. They are wanting us to call it the ELCA youth gathering and not like the national youth gathering because they invite people from across the world to go. So it's not just national, it's the ELCA gathering. To attend the ELCA youth gathering, the youth need to be in 8th to 12th grade at the time of registration. Registration opens up September 15th. And adult leaders must be at least 21 by the time of the gathering next July. You don't have to allow eighth graders to go. Your congregation. Some congregations have it be those in 9th to 12th grade because, barring a pandemic, those who are in 8th grade should be able to go on the next cycle of the youth gathering. But it's totally up to you and your congregation. But to go to the gathering to register, it's those who will be entering 8th to 12th grade this year. All right, gathering programming. We have some new things, and I'm going to grab my notes. So, there are 3 main days of the gathering. Each participant will be given a wristband, and that wristband will be color-coded. Everybody in Northwestern Minnesota Synod will have the same color because we will all have the same Synod day. We will all go through the cycle on the same day. We won't all be together on all the things, but each group that is doing the gathering together will be together for all the things. So first Synod Day. It is a worship and Synod experience. This will look very different if you've attended an ELCA youth gathering before. Synod Day in the past was either like an all morning or all afternoon thing. And there was worship and learning and it was kind of long and a lot of sitting. The youth gathering leadership heard the feedback, and what it is now is it will be about an hour of worship, and then there'll be scavenger hunt opportunities, and the synod might do something together or an opportunity together. I need to talk with Bishop Bill to see if there's something that we want to offer as a synod. Some synods are gonna offer like maybe a meal together somewhere or do something special together. But that's what Synod Day will be. Now we have Accompaniment Day, which formerly Service Learning Day. You'll still get a shirt. It'll probably be orange because that's kind of what it's been. And there'll be 3 areas of accompaniment. So, and just like backing up a step, accompaniment is walking with. And so, there is a staff person from New Orleans, in New Orleans, that is working with agencies that are already doing work, good work in New Orleans, that we will walk alongside. So we're not like gonna be riding in on our white horses and fixing New Orleans, but we're gonna be walking alongside agencies that are doing good work and learning. So there are 3 things that you might be doing. Advocacy, and so that's getting at the root of things. Learning, digging deep. Awareness, that is learning. The gathering staff has used the language of culture keeper, so learning about something, digging in deeper, and then action is like getting your hands dirty, doing the things. And then there's interactive learning day. If you've been to a gathering before, it will look a lot the same. It is a holy playground where there'll be high ropes and lots of fun activities. There'll be the Lutheran colleges there, ELCA, World Hunger will have some kind of interactive activity. There's just a lot to learn and a lot of fun to be had at the convention center. So each of the 3 full days that you are there, you will be assigned to do one of these things. Each day there'll be a mass gathering in the Superdome, and there's community life following the mass gathering. If you've been to gatherings before, in the way back in time, there was a thing called nightlife and hotel life, and it is coming back. There will be hotel life at these gatherings, and so some of the hotels will have things like open mic, talent shows, dances, lots of different things after the mass gatherings. And I'm going to go to the next slide. I'm gonna do 2 more slides and then I'll take a couple of questions because this is new and a lot of information. So registration opens September 15th. This time they're calling early bird registration priority. And it truly is priority. It's first come, first served. It's not like everybody who registers between September 15th and November 1st is in the same bucket. It's if you register on the 15th, you're ahead of someone who registers on September 16th for the priority. And so there is things you get if you register early on, and I'm gonna get to that now. So what the heck is priority? All right, priority. Priority registration includes our least expensive registration rate and the ability to rank the following items. If you register a majority of your group in priority, you'll get your hotel assignment before the 2024 extravaganza. And I'll tell you what that is in a bit. All right, so hotel location is something that you can prioritize. And I'm going to show you those right now. So there's 4 locations that you can pick from. The past couple of cycles, there's been synod hotels. That's not happening at this gathering. It's, you can kind of pick. So there's the convention center, which is down here. The convention center is along the Mississippi River. This is where the interactive learning day is. So a pro would be, you're close to there in the morning. So you don't have to like, you know, go very far. And then we have the Superdome, which is here. So these hotels are the Superdome hotels. I think there's a couple more. I don't think there's all like, yeah. Superdome hotels, a pro for that is that you are close at the end of the night to your hotel. Then we have the French Quarter. So these hotels are going to be more boutique hotels. They're going to be smaller. Yeah, you can read about the French Quarter. There's pros and cons to being in the French Quarter with high schoolers. And then the 4th one is downtown. And they're calling downtown this Canal Street area. On Canal Street and just off Canal Street. And so every hotel is walkable to everything that you need to do. Except your accompaniment day, and they'll provide transportation for your accompaniment day if you need it. Your accompaniment day might be walkable, but if it's not, they'll provide it. And so there's pros and cons to all of these places. The likelihood of nightlife at a hotel is probably going to be on these ones on Canal because they're kind of the larger hotels with the ballrooms. But that's not for sure yet. So that is that. I'm gonna see. Chris, what did you say was near the convention center one of the days? The convention center is the interaction center. So that is one of the program days is there. And like there is right in here, there is a mall with a food court that's pretty easy to eat at. And it's not far from everything. Like everything is pretty walkable. Does that answer your question, Pam? Okay, good. So I'm gonna go back to this now. And I'm gonna jump over here to hotel price. So I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna stop sharing. This is the registration workbook. And I'm going to show you where it is on the website. Because the ELCA website is one of the least user-friendly websites known to man. So I had to all right, so sharing screen. It's elca.org. Okay, then youth gathering tab. Then you go over here to attend and you go to congregation and you click on congregation and they have this registration workbook to download and you click on it and you get this beautiful thing. In this workbook, it has everything you need to get ready. In here, it goes over the hotel. It goes over all the priority registration things that I just went over. But the hotel prices. One thing that I want to share with you is the hotel prices. One of the priority things is you can pick location and price. So your prices of the hotels, low is 140 to 150. Medium is 151 to 165. And high is 166 to 185. And that's pre-tax. So tax, I'm gonna check really fast because somebody did the math on tax. And I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, but there's a lot of tax on the so hotel taxes are currently a little over 15%. So you would need to take that and then add the 15% when you're figuring out your budget. Also, you're not guaranteed to get doubles for your housing, and so plan to have 3 people in a room. And then if you get doubles, that's awesome. And you can put more people in the room depending on how your congregation does housing. And so, yeah. So that's the priority for the hotel location and hotel price. And yeah, this is a brand new thing. And something that hasn't happened before. Then you also get to prioritize your accompaniment. So you get to say in order what you want: action, advocacy, or awareness. And so there's that. And then, not to like make your brain explode, but then you can prioritize your priorities. So you can prioritize like hotel location as the most important thing to you, and like, or your accompaniment thing. So there's a lot of things. And so printing out this is going to be your best friend to do to get ready for registration. Well, to make it to the priority registration, you don't have to have all of your information. At our last champion meetings, I asked the gathering staff, what is the most important things to make sure that you get on that priority thing, registration? And it is number of people and that you pay the deposit. And so, because if you like start, let's say Tammy's Church, Grace Lutheran of New England has 8 people sign up, including adult leaders. And then at the end, and she gets everybody registered on September 15th. But then right at Christmas time, 20 more people registered. That bumps her back out of priority because that's adding a bunch of hotel rooms and adding a bunch of people to the accompaniment day because they've already started putting the puzzles together. And so if you think you have a couple people on the edge, you can like make up a name, Martin Luther 2. I wouldn't put a lot in. You can always add a couple, but if if you end up adding a lot more, that's gonna knock you out of that priority. If that's important to you, it might not be important to you. You're still gonna be in New Orleans, you're still gonna have a gathering. This, the past few cycles, you didn't get to have any say in what your service project was. And so it just sort of depends on if that stuff matters to you. Ugh. I'm gonna stop talking for a second. Does anyone have questions? Because this is a lot.
Chris, I'm sorry, I just need to duck out actually by 9 o'clock, so I have like 4 minutes. So, but I just wanted to say, so is it Lexi and Kale? So I'm here only because, not only, I actually really am interested in how the gathering is going to run this year. But I work at Luther Crest as the retreat coordinator, and we are just offering, apparently we've done this since like the early 2000s. We offer a bus for, I think the cost is $1,500 per participant this year, and it's 2 days on either end. And it leaves from Luther Crest Bible Camp in Alexandria, Minnesota. And on the way down, I believe we do a service project, and it's the 2 hotels, meals, as well as the way back again. And so if you're looking for an option to not have to worry about transportation and getting down there and want to kind of extend your trip a little bit, jump on luthercrest.org, and just by signing up, you aren't signing up. You can just, it'll be a form that just comes right to me with your name, address, and just put a little note of how many people, and if you're interested, and I can give you more information. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome, great. Chris, thank you. I'm so sorry I have to ditch out.
Sorry, there's just so much information.
I know, no, that's great. I have to be, I'm walking a dog next door, and I had said I'd be there by 9. So, all right, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Tammy.
Bye, everybody.
All right, Tammy lives in New England, and so that's why it's not 9 yet. I haven't talked for 2 hours.
Not a lot of information on their website. It's basically the price and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to talk to the youth about that option when I'm guessing what it's.
And sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
One thing to consider too, if you're new to this, if you have 10 total people, you can work with airlines with group rates. Just something I'm throwing out there because I know not everybody likes to bus. Our group is flying, and that's something we're looking at doing. So if you have 10 people, you can qualify for a group rate. And if you don't have 10 people, maybe partner with a congregation near you and get more than 10 people. It's a good option to look at as well.
Yeah.
Okay, I had heard people, but is more. Yeah, 10 people's more realistic. Someone had told me about that too, but they said 20 people to get a group rate.
Oh. No, it's 10.
Okay.
So at our 1 o'clock meeting, we had quite a few groups that were looking at figuring out how to share a bus, different buses. And so, and some people who are like on the fence about going, flying and whatnot. And so, if you are interested in possibly busing, and maybe going with some other churches, you can put your email in the, chat, and I will save it, and I will send out an email tomorrow, and kind of let people organically get together. Buses got almost not quite double, but pretty close to double the cost from the last cycle. And so that was like sticker shock for a lot of people who started looking at buses. And going ahead and talking about flying, flying is a great option as someone who worked the last gathering. I flew out and that last day after closing worship, and I just had myself to take care of. And the airport was an utter zoo. It was like, and I am like a chill traveler. Like I do not have travel anxiety. Like I've traveled all over the world. And when something happens, we roll with it. But like it was not awesome. And so my strong suggestion is if you do fly, to stay at least 1 or 2 days after, and or to fly in at least the day before in case there are flight issues. And or like connection issues, storms, right? Like anything can happen. So like I would pad it at least 1 day on either side. The hotel rates you get will be good for a few days on either side of the gathering too. And then you can like go on a swap tour or go to the really cool aquarium or, like do some different things. And so that's just my Synod Champion, one of the tips of the night. I did a youth works trip at the church I work with, and I had 30 people, and we flew to New York. And there were storms in New York City. And so we had to spend the night. We flew out of Fargo and we had to spend the night in Minneapolis. And we missed our 4th of July fireworks cruise in New York Harbor. And like, because of the tone I set, my youth were like bummed, but they weren't like crabby. But some of the adults made it not awesome because they have travel anxiety. And so, but yeah, just, make sure you pad it so it's not like coming in too hot, right? So yeah, but I think flying would be wonderful. And I was looking at Sun Country. I went on a band and choir trip with the high school, and they did an entire plane to Orlando through Sun Country, like chartered it. So maybe that could be a possibility too. So yeah, options, right? Lots of things. But transportation is going to be probably the largest ticket item in your budget. All right, I'm gonna find my slide deck. So I talked about that. We already talked about transportation a bit. So yeah, if you are interested in learning more about a bus, let me know. And then
Name from Luther Crest.
what?
What was that gal's name from Luther Crest?
Tammy.
Cammy?
Yeah, Tammy.
Oh, Tammy, okay.
I'll put her email address in. Her email address is, I'll put it in the chat. So I know they haven't figured out the details, but at least they know how long it is going to be. So transportation, and then adult leaders. They can make or break your trip for you. Just because an adult leader or a parent says, I want to go, doesn't mean you have to say yes to them. Adult leaders aren't chaperones. Chaperones stand against the wall and don't do anything. Adult leaders are active. They do the things. This isn't a vacation for them, but they have to be willing to take vacation time. They need to be able to put others first. They need to remain calm. Your adult leader group needs to have various qualities and skills between you all. The adult leader ratio to youth is 5 youth to every leader. But there should never be just one adult leader. So it should always start with 2 and then go from there. Because no leader should be with youth by themselves. And so there is in the G learning, which is something I'll show you in a bit, an entire section on adult leaders. And it is so important. If you have a bunch of adult leaders that want to go, you can figure out creative ways on how to pick. You can ask the youth if they want to go. You can do an application. You can, you know, show them the list of expectations and they can, you know, decide for themselves. There's covenants in the G learning that are options that you can show them. I had a youth I in Houston got to attend the mass gatherings and I sat with different youth from our synod, and some of the youth pointed out that the adults were on their phones and the youth weren't during the speakers, you know, and they noticed that, right? And so it's so important. So I could talk for like 3 hours about the importance of adult leaders, but it's 8 o'clock, it's 8:07, and I'm not going to. But please go through the G learning about that. Registration. I already showed you the registration. I showed you where to find it. And then there's the extravaganza. So each year in January or February, the ELCA Children, Youth, and Family Network puts on what is called the extravaganza. It is a continuing education experience that is primarily for those who work in children, youth, and family ministry. But the years that there is a ELCA youth gathering, I really think that trip leaders should go. It is really great. There is down here you see intensive care courses, January 17th to 18th. And there is an intensive care course on the ELCA gathering, and if you took that course, you will get tours of everywhere the gathering is going to be. So you'll get into the dome, you'll get into the convention center, you'll meet the gathering leadership, you'll learn the ins and outs, and it will just make the gathering a wonderful experience for you. If funding is an issue, I would work it into your church's overall gathering budget, because it will just make the gathering so much better for you. If you have questions about in layman's terms, people in the in crowd call it the E, please reach out to me. I've gone every year since 2007, and it's been amazing, but especially important for the years that the gathering is. Good. And if you do the priority registration, you will have your hotel at the extravaganza. So that's what it said. You'll have your hotel by the extravaganza. So then you can go and see, you know, what restaurants are nearby, if there's a Walgreens nearby, you kind of get the lay of the land. And so it's really, really, really good. Here's the G-Learn. That is on the ELCA website. Okay. If you go to the resources, there's a couple of things to share. There's the getting ready materials. I printed that out. There are 10 lessons. And it's free, and it goes over there's 2 lessons per each of the theme days. You can do it as your youth group, you can do it as a retreat. But I've seen congregations use the getting ready materials, and I've seen congregations not. And the congregations that did had a much better experience. So I think that would be great. Branding materials is here if you want to have your own, design your own shirts or anything. The logos are here, the color numbers are all here. And here's the G-Learn. This is amazing. It's, I strongly suggest at least the trip leaders, but any of the adults, to go through the G-Learn material and learn, and it will just set you guys up for success. A couple of other things. When you do the priority registration, you don't need to know how you're getting to New Orleans yet. There's 2 ways to get to New Orleans. There is, well, with other people. There is traveling with another congregation, or there is doing the gathering with another congregation. So if you are traveling with another congregation, that means you're just getting down there and back with another congregation. If you are doing the entire gathering with another congregation, there is only one trip leader then who does the registering, and that trip leader is the fiscal, like that church is the fiscal agent. So let's just say, using Ken as an example in Fergus Falls. So Ken is the trip leader for every church in Fergus Falls. And so he enters in Bethlehem Lutheran of Fergus Falls and puts in everybody. And so everybody needs to pay through Bethlehem of Fergus Falls. He will eventually need everyone's congregational ID. When you register, you need your congregational ID. And if you don't have it, you can email me because I have access to all your congregational ID. So if you travel and want to like do the gathering with other churches, then you do it that way. Or if you want to just travel, so all the Fergus Falls churches travel together, but First Lutheran has their own adult leaders and their own youth, and they are going to do the gathering there by themselves. And Bethlehem has their own. They just register on their own. Does that make sense? This part is hard for a lot of people, especially when like figuring out how to share adults and housing and all of that stuff. But there's one trip leader if you are doing the entire gathering with another church, and they are the fiscal leaders. Whew, I've talked a lot. Ah, is there any questions? I've scared you all. Are you still here, or have you all run away?
I'm here.
Okay. Lexi, have you been to a gathering before?
As a student.
Okay.
So, I am with Breck Lutheran in Breckenridge.
So someone was on the call this morning and said that they were talking the afternoon. Was it Fox on Buku?
Yep, Foxhome.
Okay.
Julie Carlson and I are working together on trying to get a group together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ken's still here. I didn't hear him. He's used to me though. Good. Any questions, Lexi? It's a lot.
So it looks like financial assistance is due, that application is due way before priority registration. So if we were gonna apply to that, we'd have to do it like, or if any of the kids qualified, it would have to be in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. And something that's different this time is that each young person needs to like write the why they need it.
Okay.
In the past, there used to be like a thing that the church just filled out for everybody, but this is like more individually based.
Okay.
Tracy, did I hear something?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's self-healed.
I do have a question. You were talking about the, okay, so I get the one leader. We at least have 2 congregations going together, possibly 3. So I understand the one leader, and we will be together. We're traveling together. We do confirmation together. So we're going to keep all the kids together.
Yeah.
So one trip leader, one fiscal agent. Do you need the congregational IDs for all the churches?
Eventually to put in because they just want to know.
They still want, okay.
They want to know, but like at the gathering, there's nothing that will say, like using Fergus Falls as an example and Bethlehem again, like there's nothing that will say everyone's from Bethlehem Lutheran.
Okay.
It's just like internal things.
Okay.
that
That's
say
kind of what
that.
because we've kind of been calling our group the Headwaters instead
Yeah.
of refer to one church.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. And so there's nothing, their wristbands won't say a church name or anything.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And same with you, if you do travel with Foxconn Group through Lexi.
And when do we need those congregational IDs when we do the priority check-in or registration?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, just email me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have you had some interest from people going, Lexi and Tracy?
We presented it last week to our youth when we started we touched base on confirmation starting up. So I feel like we do. We've got some on the fence, but some have said yes already.
Awesome.
Yeah, I feel like we do too, maybe 5 or 6.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It
I
is.
think it's easier to find like restaurants and things like that, the smaller the group you have. And it's easier to count everybody and things. I mean, it's fun to have a lot of people and you want people to have the experience, but there's something to not having 75 people to be in charge of too.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of parents that want to go too.
Yeah. And
So,
they probably all wouldn't be good, right?
What?
They probably all wouldn't be good either, huh?
I don't know all of them very well, so that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
I know one mom who signs up and comes with everything I put out there. She signs up and comes with too. So I think that will be a good thing.
Especially if the youth know her.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There,
So-
so in that G-Learn thing that I showed on the resources page, there's a whole section on adult leaders and like
Yeah.
this is my binder and there are, where is it? There's 7 pages of qualities that a good adult leader should have. And right, no one's perfect, but like some of them are really important, you know?
Yeah, I like the idea of just putting it out there. These are the expectations. And then, yeah, I guess see how that goes.
Mhm.
If I could jump on that just for a moment, Lexi, your comment of you have a lot of parents that want to go. We just joined into a multi-parish congregation, so we now have 3 churches. As of last week, I have 12 kids, maybe a 13th, and 0 parents that want to go. But what I do like is Chris's comment earlier of an adult leader is more than a chaperone. Like I know parents that I could say, hey, nobody signed up, would you come and just help me get kids there? But I know we would not see them again, like interacting with the kids or participating in it. And I think back to the year that I went, those adults, I think, had more fun than we did at some of the events because they were trying to get us, we were moody teenagers, let's be honest, but they were trying to get us engaged. And like now when I think of the group of kids I have going and the other churches, and I'm like, I don't really know their kids, but they all joke about this one lady. And I'm like, that's the lady I'm going to go and ask because they know her. She's there. She'll boogie down with them in the middle of VBS if she needs to, just to make a kid smile. Like,
Yeah.
versus my parent who's like, yep, I can come. I can get them from room to room. That doesn't help me.
Mhm.
So I think my biggest fear is kind of that along those lines, though, of the adults I have going, I have one who I know is severely diabetic who doesn't take care of it. In former school trips I've gone on with her, they've had a family member purposely basically for her. And it's been a worse sick case situation because, if it's family, we can let it slide, and then you're in the ER. So I'm trying to decide what to do with these 13 kids.
Mhm.
Thus, that's why I said open to any transportation. The idea of a bus, if you will pick me up and put my kids on a bus and I don't have to deal with connections in airports and who's in the bathroom and who's in the food line and who's trying to catch the 70-year-old, chaperone that wants to go with, like, we will jump on a bus with anyone.
Yeah, I know there'll be spots on buses for people who want to do it. It'll just kind of there was talk at the 1 o'clock Zoom of a little bit of a pre-gathering for people in our synod to go down to the Gulf Coast in Mississippi and have a day and a half playing in the Gulf of Mexico before the gathering. And that would be easier for people who took the bus. And so there might be some options with that as well. So yeah. Yeah. It's a great opportunity for people who wouldn't otherwise get to do something like that.
Yeah.
Has anyone that's on the call gone to a gathering before where they've flown with the group? Ken, I know you said you were talking about it. Have you done it previously?
Not for a youth gathering, but I flew last summer with high school kids for a mission trip, but not a
Okay.
gathering.
Okay, I've never flown in this with high schoolers in this setting. Are there extra restrictions from the airlines?
I was shocked that there wasn't really. They just all had to have IDs with, and when we did the registration process, I got them all taken care of. I only had on my part, I had the permission forms I brought with me in case we ever stopped by somebody and they questioned. But other
Okay.
than that, nobody really questioned.
Okay, perfect. Thank
Yep.
you.
For those who haven't led a trip before, would it be helpful to have a couple of touch points? More like at every chunk of time just to see how things are going. Anyone can go, but especially for those who haven't led a trip before. Yeah, because we had a lot of first time people at the 1 o'clock call too. All right. I will put that in the hopper and do something with that because I really, my goal in all of my work is to set people up for success. So for real, email me if you have questions. I have a Facebook group. Let's see if I can find it. I don't know if I have it private. Let's see if I have it private. It's visible. Okay, so it is. I know Facebook is kind of lame for young people, but this is for more adult leaders. So it's NWMN page for ELCA youth gatherings. And so on here right now, it's mostly been my point of talking about we do twice a month first third Zooms. But I will be putting information on here. So if you ask to be part of this group, I will say yes. And I'll be putting information in and you can ask questions too on here and it will be good crowdsourcing stuff. I'll put this in here.
You talked a lot about the priority thing. I listened to a talk from someone down in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, last spring, and they talked about something about being priority and getting a night where they know they'll be on the floor for the mass gathering. Is that a true thing?
That has been a thing in the past.
Okay.
That there might be those incentives this time, but they haven't widely publicized that. But that was incentives in the past. But they haven't promised that this time.
Okay. That's one of my memories as a kid.
As being on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah, I was not with crabby, moody teenagers. I was with teenagers who wanted to be at the front.
Don't get me wrong, we had those
But I also
too,
like
but
can't imagine saying to my kids, like, we're only in Orleans for, 4 or 5 days. And I want you to spend a good hour and a half to 2 hours standing in line right now.
Well, and pro tip, if you're not worried about like a night or anything, you don't have to get out right away on that last day in the morning. A lot of groups don't want to sit up in the front or on the floor because they want to leave right away. So it's a good chance just to get a floor seat just for the closing worship.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Good stuff. And then, yeah, it's exciting and good. But I will, be doing some touch points. Something I didn't share. One of the Synod Day things, but this is for the whole gathering, is there's going to be a scavenger hunt that will start if you choose to when you leave home. And we got to see part of it, the champions did at our last meeting, and it was awesome. It was so cool. All sorts of different things, and it wasn't just like take a picture of that, take a picture of this, but some of it was like fill up your water bottle at this place. And like meet the street performer and different things like that. And there'll be like a leaderboard going on at the, so you could do it as individuals or as congregations. And so that will be a fun, new thing this cycle as well. So, yeah. All right. Reach out to me with any and all questions, please. It will be the no question, it's too small, or whatever. I'd rather answer your questions and have you feel like you are prepared. Because you are doing the good, important work of walking with our young people. And in this great experience, and I'm jealous. Like I'll be working at the gathering again, which I love doing the behind the scenes things to make it happen, but I getting to be with the young people is pretty great too. So I will pray us out unless anyone else has any last questions. Let us pray. Dear God, thank you for today, for the day you have made. Help us rejoice and be glad in it. I thank you so much for these wonderful people on this call that love you and want to serve you by bringing young people across the country so that they can learn more about their faith, about their church, about their congregation, and just have some questions and have some new experiences. I pray for their adult leaders and that they find the right ones to help make the trip go smoothly. I pray for open hearts and open minds of the young people. I pray for the congregation support of those who will be attending the gathering from their churches, that they get uplifted and they see the value in this trip, but more importantly, the value of young people. I pray for these people on this call, for their lives and everything going on in their lives. I lift up in prayer all the students getting ready for school or who have started school. Pray for the teachers and the staff, and for safety and health for all. We lift before you everyone impacted by hurricanes and wildfires and cancer and sickness. We lay before you all of our cares and our worries. We offer all of these prayers and the prayers that are heavy on our hearts to you. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys
Thank
are amazing.
Thank you. Bye.